Welcome to Radiant Spirits Rising with your host, Heather Lena. Heather explores how natural healing can support your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. She guides you on how to harness your inner power to overcome challenges, improve overall health, and strengthen your connection to your true self. Through grounding techniques, holistic remedies, and the transformative practice of energy balance, Heather offers practical insights to help you create harmony in mind, body, and spirit. So now, please welcome the host of Radiant Spirits Rising, Heather Lena.
Welcome, everybody, to Radiant Spirits Rising with Heather Lena. How are you guys today? I am so excited for this podcast. We have a guest with us. I just love her. I absolutely love her. And I know by the time we get done with today's podcast, you're going to love her too. So, of course, as we get started, the first thing we're going to do is set our intention for this podcast. So I'm going to do this with you because I'm so excited I need to ground myself. So let's close our eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. So breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. One more time. Breathe in and breathe out. So then I want you to take and focus on your heart chakra area. Breathing in and out. And let that heart chakra start to light up. Mine is pink. I don't know what your color is, but light it up. And our intention for the day that we're going to absorb into that light chakra is to the knowledge, feeling, and knowing of just accepting ourselves without fear. So let's get that in. Let's download everyone with a knowledge, feeling, and knowing of what it's like to accept yourself without fear. Breathing in, breathing out. Then we're going to take that heart energy and we're going to send it into the spine, sending it up and down through all the chakras. So you're going to do going up through the heart, through the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And then down through the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. Lighting up those chakras as we go. And then, of course, when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes for me. I'll give it just a minute. All right. So today, my guest is Kiersten Hathcock. So before authoring her book, Little Voices, Kiersten was known as a Shark Tank winning, self-taught carpenter and furniture designer who defied the odds and built an internationally known kids' furniture company out of her garage. Through her life journey, she has experienced extraordinary circumstances, some of which we're going to talk about today. At the age of 36, she suddenly started seeing and hearing spirits of deceased children, some of whom had been killed by predators. Kiersten discovered the kids weren't just coming to her for help. They were coming to her to reveal dark secrets from her childhood and save her from a predator in her midst. Her intuitive awakening has led to partnerships with detectives around the country, and she is a co-founder of the National Institute for Law and Justice. Her memoir, Little Voices, was released on September 20th, 2022. So please welcome Kiersten Hathcock.
So much. I'm so excited to be here, Heather. This is such a joy for me to see you
so
again.
Excited.
You know,
I'm so excited. I just love her. I just love you. So I'm going to have you do a little more introduction for yourself. Okay. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how we met. And then we're going to hit on our topic for the day, which is all about self-worth and our abilities.
sounds good. I love it. Like I said, I'm so excited to be here. So a little bit more about me. I grew up in Ohio. So I come from the Midwest. I come from that background of thinking I can do anything that I set my mind to. And thankfully that actually helped me achieve quite a bit throughout my life. But I had no woo-woo background at all. So everything that happened to me happened when I was 36. So it was well into adulthood when I started to awaken to my gifts. And then from there, like you read in the bio, everything kind of started to unfold at that point. But yeah, I'm a self-taught carpenter. I'm a CEO. I also do marketing. I work with entrepreneurs. So I kind of have a lot of different things. An ADHD, kind of a career, I guess I could say, not a straight and narrow line.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. So I first want to talk about how we met. And the reason why I'm doing that is because this is another example about how following your intuition can serve you very well. So Kiersten and I met in 2022 at an event in Winslow called Moonshot. And originally, I was not going to do Moonshot. I had no desire to do Moonshot, didn't want to do it. And I just was being bugged by my spirit team, by I don't know if it was Joan or my mom, but somebody was like, you need to do this. And I was like, I really don't want to do this. I don't, but I was like, okay, fine. You just get to the point when your spirits are talking to you and they just don't stop. And you're like, fine. If it'll get you off my back, get you off my back, I'll do it. So I did. I signed up for it. And basically, Moonshot, you're doing a elevator pitch of 3 to 5 minutes of your business, of your small business. At the time, my business was under a different name called Healing Angel Sanctuary. I actually rebranded in 2023. But so I did this whole thing, and I went to the first night of the event. And Scott, your husband, was like, you need to sign up to do the training sessions. I'm like, I don't want to do the training sessions. And they weren't mandatory. And he was like, oh no, I really think you need to sign up for this. And my team was like, you really need to sign up for this. I was like, I don't even want to be here. Why am I doing this? I don't even want to be here, right? And so I said, okay, fine. So I signed up for 2. And as I'm walking in to go do this first training session, I end up walking behind Kiersten and another lady. So we start talking and jabbing, and they're like, just hang out for a few minutes. Somebody will be out here to get you. I'm like, okay, fine. That's great. Well, conveniently, Kiersten was not even supposed to be in that room. She was supposed to be in a different room working with a different person, and something had happened. And she was like, okay, I'm just going to come here and do this one really quick. And so they sat down with me and they're like, okay, what is your business? What do you do? And I was like, okay. And I'm still getting used to telling people, well, I'm a psychic medium. I can hear dead people talking to me. And Kiersten looks at me and goes, oh, you're in the right room. because I understand what you're doing. And so does she. There was another woman in the room that understood the same thing. And when I walked out of that room, I was told, you are here to meet her. That's why you're here. You were here to meet her. And I was like, oh, okay. So we have maintained a friendship since then. I was able to attend your book signing in Flagstaff. I know.
It's meant so much to me.
And I have my signed book right here, my autographed book. And interestingly enough, my guest last week, Dawn Marie, was with me when we went to your book opening in Flagstaff.
I thought I recognized her when I was watching your podcast. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay.
So be careful when you're ignoring your intuition, because ultimately you may be blowing off something that you really could use in a friendship that, will last the lifetime. So with that being said, we're going to start talking and asking questions, and we're going to see where this podcast goes. So as we talked about, your journey is truly unique. Going from a Shark Tank winner, carpenter, right? Being a carpenter, going through the whole Shark Tank process, which in your book you discuss how difficult that ended up being, much more difficult than you thought it was going to be, and to an author with profound intuitive gifts. So share a little bit with us how your path unfolded and how that path shaped your self-worth.
Sure, absolutely. The path has been, like you said, so strange. This is not a path I thought I was going to travel by any means. So, I set out, I graduated from college with a communication degree. I went in and worked various different jobs throughout the US, but I ended up in television. So I was working for TV networks at one point, and that, that transfer from working for a TV network to becoming a carpenter was absolutely 1,000% intuitive. I just had no idea that that's what it was at the time. So it's interesting to kind of look back now. But, I think that's also a key when you're asking about self-worth. I grew up, and we'll talk about this later, but I discovered that I had been abused as a child sexually, and I had repressed a lot of those memories. And I think when you come from that background, you really don't have the ability to trust your intuition, because when that happens at such a young age, it's as if you don't know how to trust anything anymore, because you've trusted someone that, in my case, somebody I knew who was in my family, and my compass is broken. And so for me, intuition actually gave me the ability to have more self-worth, and to trust in my own intuition, my own quiet voice that's inside of me. That was what was really fascinating about it. That, I was able to kind of figure out how to trust myself as I
Mm-hmm.
went through this process of, okay, this sounds crazy, but I think I can build furniture. I just have to teach myself and not lose my fingers. And, everyone else is saying, like, you're nuts. This is Kiersten. You used to work in marketing for television. This is crazy. What are you thinking?
Right.
And then sure enough, it was that intuitive, quiet knowing that led me to do that, and then to keep going, and led me to Shark Tank. And then throughout Shark Tank as well, there were so many intuitive lessons. I was having to go up against a lot of folks, on the production team, who were telling me, oh, this isn't the right thing to say, and you need to revise this, and you need to do this. And I think because I had had a couple years of learning to trust my intuition at that point, I was able to say, no, this actually doesn't feel right to me. And I'm going to go against what you're saying. And that's going against what they were saying was the only reason that I was offered two deals on the show. So
Right.
I think, I don't know, it's a roundabout way of saying, by being able to actually learn how to trust myself, it definitely helped me in terms of self-worth, and really just being able to trust, just trust myself and trust that intuitive hit.
Now, so a question just popped into my head. So going back to the suppressed memories of the abuse, right?
Hmm.
And having it be a family member, and you're probably about my age, maybe younger,
Hmm.
but when we were growing up, you didn't talk about those things. People didn't believe you,
Hmm.
especially if it was a family member, right? It was like, how dare
Absolutely.
you even say something like that? And so, do you feel like that really affected your trust of all people, and has carried through up until you started your healing journey? Because you've done your healing journey and you're working through that healing journey.
Right. Right. No, that's such a good question. Thank you for asking that. I think if you're looking at folks who have dealt with repression, you're looking at a tiny bit of a different animal, because we don't have the conscious awareness that this happened to us. But what I learned through this journey is that the subconscious drives 80% of our behavior. So no matter if we have that conscious, acknowledgement that, oh my God, this happened to me, our behavior is still being driven by it. So I think, innately, I learned how to please in order to stay safe as a child. Even though I didn't remember, I completely blocked that. That was how I operated. I was always people pleasing, always looking out, making sure everything in the room was fine. It was very much, it was really interesting, to come into my 40s, I think, at this point, when I finally was starting to deal with the repressed memories, to learn that about the subconscious and the conscious. I will tell you, though, as a child, I didn't have to say, hey, my uncle did this to me, mom and dad. But I was highly intuitive back then. I think, like we've talked about a lot, right, Heather? Like,
Hmm.
everyone has this gift, everyone's
Yes.
intuitive. I
Yes.
think some of us are, you can use it, you can grow it as a muscle, you can strengthen it, but I think some of us are also kind of dialed up a little higher naturally. And so as a child, and I remember going to my grandfather's funeral and saying, to my parents, hey, grandpa's in the corner. He's standing in the corner. And they're like, no, sweetheart, he's not, and I understand that. I mean, that's what I would have probably said to my kid, prior to knowing about intuition. So I get it, but that was my experience of being told, no, I don't believe you. And
Okay.
so that led to me shutting everything down around the age
Okay.
of 9 or 10.
Okay. All right. Well, when
Yeah.
we come back from our break, we're going to continue our conversation with Kiersten. See you shortly.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Radiant Spirits Rising with Heather Lena. Today, we are so excited to have Kiersten Hathcock with us. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about her intuition and her journey. And she mentioned about how subconsciously she knew things that happened to her, but she had repressed those memories consciously. And so I was talking to her on the break and I was telling her, it was interesting that she said that because I work with people in these healing sessions. And when I work with them, I work with their higher self, their soul, their subconscious mind. And then as I'm going through the process, I will ask them, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. Are you okay with that? And they have to tell me yes, because we're trying to get the conscious mind to be in line with the subconscious and the other parts of that. So it's really interesting that you would bring that up as, the conscious mind was repressing, but the subconscious was not.
Yes.
And that is
And
a
the
true
fact that you
fact.
have that experience, that's amazing that you have that experience and that's what you do every day when you're working with clients. Yeah.
It is. And, some of that, the subconscious and the higher self, and I talked about this in the podcast where I likened our bodies to a computer, where the subconscious literally holds on to all of this stuff. So, and it takes it in. And so then it holds on to it. So really, yeah, you're acting it out, even though you don't realize it, that you are. It takes these past memories and it'll cause you to work in different ways as for safety, kind of like what you were talking about, where you were a people pleaser, right? You were like,
Absolutely.
oh, nope, nope. I don't want to get hurt, so I'm just going to make everybody happy.
Exactly. And I had no idea that was driving, that was a driving force and what my
Right.
subconscious was really directing me in that way.
Right. So the next question is talking about when you first realized that you were seeing spirits, right? And on the break, I mentioned to you that it was interesting because I work with people that have lost children, miscarriages and this kind of stuff. But when I go in to work with them and I ask to see the spirit is always in an adult form. And for you, they come to you in a child form. And so it's interesting how people will cut that, how the spirit world works in bringing you what's comfortable in order for you to work with them. Does that make sense?
It does. You know, I absolutely agree with that. And I also think, like in my case, I do see them sometimes grown up. And sometimes that has to do with if I'm trying to figure out who this is, like if we're looking at a missing person case, but I actually don't know who this is, then it's indicative of the age that they are or would have been. So it's really fascinating because on occasion I will see them as adults. For the most part, I see them as children because it also works that way. If they went missing when they were 3, if they were killed when they were 5, then I will see them typically at that age.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how does that viewing children and helping children impact your perception of yourself and your reality?
Wow. Well, in the beginning, I thought I was losing my mind. Truthfully, I really
I feel
did. I
that.
mean, I mean, my first thought
I
was,
feel
okay,
that.
is this the polyurethane? Right? I've been breathing all these years in the garage. Like that was my first thought. But what was so interesting about it, you know, in a nutshell, these kids started to come in, and here I am thinking, first of all, I'm losing my mind. But once I got validation and was able to realize, like, no, I'm not losing my mind. This is real. Then, you know, they were crucial in helping me understand because many of them had been sexually abused in their lifetime or killed by predators. So they were actually coming to me not just for me to help them, but for them to help me understand and then move through and help protect me. So it was really you know, my reality changed completely because I wasn't looking into mediumship or psychicness. In fact, I was kind of put off by it in a huge way prior to my own awakening. So my perception of reality has changed for the better, I think. I'm not
Yeah.
as fearful of what happens when you pass and you know all of that, and that helped me become a lot more secure in my life and in who I am as a person. And these, you know, these souls are so incredible. I there's still many of them are still around me that were there in the very beginning. Some kind of come in and out depending if I'm working on a case, but for the most part, they're still there kind of poking me and saying, keep going, keep going. It's pretty
Oh
neat.
yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you talk about the perception, right?
Mhm.
Our perception. So as you start to work through your intuitive gifts, at least in my world, right? So at the point that Joan was like sitting next to me after she had died,
Mhm.
telling me you are going to speak at my funeral, and I'm thinking there's something wrong.
Right.
What the hell? There is something wrong with I'm thinking to myself, what, right? But as
Uh-huh.
I open up and as I start to work through my healing journey and as I continue this, I'm no longer sad when people pass on.
Mhm.
And as harsh as that sounds, right? And as harsh
Mhm.
as that is, we'll use my dad as an example. Um, my sister and I were like, dude, dad, just go. Just
Yeah.
what are you waiting for? Just go. Well, he was waiting for my brother, is what he was waiting for. But
Oh.
but which is another
Yeah.
story for another time. But I feel sadness for the people that lose someone. I
Mhm.
feel very sad for them, right? But I don't feel sad for the person that has left, knowing that the perceptions of heaven and hell here are not what is actually there. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so
Absolutely.
I enjoy working with people, being able to bring them to the point where they realize it's okay. They can still be around you. You don't have to hang on to
Mhm.
them. You don't need to attach to them. Let them go. They'll come visit. Trust me, they're around
Yeah,
you.
they
My
are.
mom's
That's
around
for
me all the
sure.
time. My dad's around me all the time, right? But I find it more calming to where if I were to die tomorrow, I
Mhm.
wouldn't worry about anything that I would have growing up, right?
Right.
About
Right.
And so do you find the same thing for you now?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a much more at ease person, I guess I could say, because of this. And to some who aren't familiar with this side of the world, right, of woo woo, they kind of
Mhm.
look at me like I'm nuts when I say that, because they're thinking, well, if I saw a kid standing in my, corner of my room, I'd be terrified. Like, actually, no,
Right.
it brings me a lot of peace now. Now that I understand it, now that I'm in it, and I see, I've learned a lot from them, honestly, so much from them, and a lot still to learn.
Oh, absolutely. And and I have spirits that bring people to me all the time. All the time. They want, I work with a lot of generational stuff, generational
Yes.
curses, all of that kind of stuff. So when I go in to heal somebody, I'm usually healing up and down generational lines. I'm usually
Yep.
helping people side to side. In my healing journey, that's happened to me as well. So would you say that through your healing journey and this process, that you have actually been able to help Natalie and Grace, knowing that they probably have some type of abilities as well, to be comfortable with that, so that they're able to move forward and work with these and not get hurt by them? Because ultimately, if you're ignoring your abilities, these
Mhm.
spirits can actually hurt you. So do you feel
Yeah.
like your opening has actually helped them?
It has, and I know they've been used to. My kids are older now, so they're 26 and 22, but they've grown up with me. I'm 51, and all of this happened to me when I was 36. So they were still pretty young when I started to talk about this stuff. So they've grown up with a mom who has always encouraged them to listen to their own gut feelings and their own intuition, and I'm seeing it play out in such a beautiful way right now. Like, our daughter is a musician. She's living in Los Angeles, our youngest, Gracie. And to see her use her intuition, she uses a tarot card, she uses a pendulum, and it's helping her navigate the music world there. And I mean, I feel like, okay, if I did anything right in this world, with my kids, it's to help them instill that in them, that they can
Yes.
actually trust themselves. And I feel like, okay, I've done my job.
Yeah, because that's so important. It's so important that as we move through this process, that we allow ourselves to heal, and which carries down to our kids, but also let them know, if you're having these type of abilities or if you're seeing this stuff, you're not crazy. You're not
Right.
crazy. You're not crazy.
Right.
There's
Well, and they
something.
helped me, honestly, because Natalie she was around 10, I think, when this all first started happening to me. And I remember I would see someone walk across our living room, and I would see her head move like this too. And I didn't have to ask her, "Did you see?" I just knew. And I thought, "Oh my gosh, okay, I'm not losing my mind." And then eventually my husband would see things. And then Gracie and I are very in tune, so we see a lot of the same stuff when we're together. So that's always interesting, because we just kind of look at each other like, "You saw that, right?" Yeah. Okay.
Do you see that? I saw that. Did you see
You saw that?
that?
You saw that? Okay. Good. All right, good.
Okay, just checking. Making sure I'm
Exactly.
not
And
losing my
she's
mind, but okay.
right? It's pretty cool. She's even teaching her best friends how to use cards and to be able to trust their own intuition, and they didn't come from a background that encouraged that. So it's pretty neat to see how it
Nice.
expands out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great as we move through our journey, our healing journey and our intuitive journey, how it affects us as well as the other people around us.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
important. It's important. Let me just say this, because I just heard this. It's important for us to shine our light and tell people, because there's other people that have the same thing we have going on, and they are like, I think I'm crazy. But I'm telling you again, you're not crazy, because I'm not
You
crazy.
know,
I'm
right?
not crazy.
I'm not crazy either, turns out.
I'm just saying, it just is what it is. So
Oh,
we're next thing we're going to talk a little bit more is about your mediumship abilities. So when we come back from the break, we're going to go into your adjustment as a medium. Does that sound good?
perfect. I love it.
Alrighty.
Sounds good to me. Okay.
Talk to you in a few minutes after the break.
Dr. RC, will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and TuneIn Radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Radiant Spirits Rising with Heather Lena. Today we are here with Kiersten Hathcock. And, you know, we have just as much fun on the podcast as we do on the breaks. So
It's true.
it is true. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fear and uncertainty of embracing your mediumship abilities, right? Because at the time they started coming out, you were in the middle of dealing with Shark Tank, right? Or getting ready to start Shark Tank.
I was. I mean, it was crazy. It was right around the same time. I was, what I found, I was in the garage, I'm building furniture. All of a sudden, like nails would move across a workbench on their own, or I would hear mom, and I would think, oh, my kids, need something. And then I would remember, oh, they're at school. Who said that? Because it would be so close. It wasn't like somebody was outside. Of course, I'm thinking of all of those things, but I really got hit over the head hard. And when I say that, I mean, I was seeing spirit mostly outward, out in front of me. I was seeing things that honestly, because I'm now used to this, it morphed a little bit. So now mostly like if I'm working on a case or if I'm channeling, I'll see more like a movie in my mind. It's less frequent that I will see them outside of me. Still happens, but I kind of feel like that was on purpose because I was not paying attention. I was not wired in that way. I just wasn't dialed in that way. And all I could think was, yeah, no, this, they're going to have to really hit me over the head to get my attention. And that's what they did.
Yeah. That's like, I tell the story about my best friend who I think I said it on the podcast with Don Marie last week. I was like, so I wasn't listening to my mother. I wasn't listening to my grandmother. So when Joan died, Joan says, here, let me take the reins of this and get her to where she'll pay attention and and listen. Right. And so, because she is loud. I mean, I put boundaries up with spirits. So when they first pass, they are really, really, really loud in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was like booming. I was like, ooh, I got to put a big boundary on you. Right. But Joan was like, nope. I'm here and you can hear me. And this is legit. And you've got work to do for me. Cause I had stuff that she wanted me to do. And, and it started with her funeral. It absolutely started with her funeral. And, and and so to say that it was freaky for me was, an understatement, number one. right?
Yes.
But again, they had to hit me over the head because I always knew things. I would tell people I always knew things. Like I always knew my grandma Pruitt was my guardian angel when she died. Didn't know how I knew, right? I always knew that when my mom died, my grandmother went to her and said, "That's your child. You deal with her for a while."
That's awesome.
And what I've discovered is that I hear conversations. So people that say I have a wild imagination, what I mean, I used, people used to tell me, "Oh, you got such a wild imagination. How can you think of things?" I'm not thinking of this. I am hearing conversations in my head that spirits are having with either real people or real people are having with real people, and probably real people wasn't the best way to say that, but you know what I mean, right?
I know what you
We'll
mean.
say living
Yes.
people instead of real people. But um but it would be like, I don't know how I know this stuff. But once Joan got in the picture and was like, "You can hear me, you've got this ability, and you need to start using it," right? For me, that's what started my shift. That's what started my shift. And actually it started working on my self-doubt and my self-worth, because I had to work through the whole thing of people are going to think you're crazy and people don't like you
Oh, yeah.
already. So, why would you go around and tell people that you can talk to the dead, right? And so that goes to our
Scary.
next question is, what did you find it easier? And I think we talked about this a little bit, but was it easier for you to help build up your self-worth after you realized you had these abilities and started working with them?
Yeah, I think so. I'm lucky, even though I was abused as a kid, I'm very lucky. My parents were always amazingly supportive. My dad was a football coach. He was an absolute feminist, right? So he was always saying, like, you can do anything you set your mind to. So it's interesting. I never really thought that I had low self-worth necessarily, but I didn't know how to trust myself. I was still looking for all of the external validation. So that's what was really interesting and really hard. And I'm sure you felt the same way, is when you have to go to somebody. Like I had to reach out to cops I didn't know. I had to reach out to people from my high school who had lost their son. And my parents still live in that town. And, the last thing I want to do is hurt them, but their son had a message for them. We're now really close and tight and have been for years, but I was terrified. And
Mhm.
so, not only was it going against my, well, I want everyone to like me, people pleaser, but also it forced me to go, okay, well, I really do feel like I need to share this, and I know that this is for their highest good. So I'm going to have to trust myself in that. And that was very difficult. I had a hard time.
So speaking of talking your highest truth, right? Which is something that growing up we were taught, you don't speak your highest truth. You have to be nice and you don't set boundaries and this and that and the other thing. So being a medium now, you are saying that you have been able to work through that process a little bit more and be able to speak
Yes.
your highest truth and be comfortable
Yeah.
with that.
Absolutely. And I think, while I didn't recognize myself as someone with low self worth, I think that the wounded part of Kirsten, little Kirsten, was obviously. And so, this entire journey, being able to learn to trust myself, but also being able to heal her, you put those two together, and it has helped. And like, I can't even tell you how much it's helped. It's helped. I was literally talking to a producer the other day because we have a couple things going on the film and TV side. And I remember having that moment where I thought, oh, that's really condescending what he just said to me. And instead of backing away from it, I leaned right into it. And I put my CEO, vibe on.
Mhm.
And I can't, and that probably would not have happened with younger Kirsten. I would have probably laughed at it and went, oh, funny, funny, funny. But instead,
Right.
I went, actually, let me tell you what's going on here. So and some of that might come because I'm 50 now. I don't know. But I don't think I would have done that when I was younger. I have a lot more self-confidence in that way too now, in dealing with people like that.
And it's interesting because as we learn to set boundaries, so speaking with spirits, you are allowed to set boundaries. And I tell people this all the time. So you are allowed to talk to a spirit just like you do a person, right? Actually, you can probably talk to them easier than you can talk to a person, because a spirit doesn't necessarily take something personally that you say to them. So, because they're no longer human, right? So if I tell them, not right now, you need to go away, that's a boundary that I'm setting, right?
Yeah.
I had a spirit come to me. I knew, I had been being told, this person is a member of my actual soul family. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And he suffered a really long, hard death. And I was just so heartbroken about it. But I had been told that when he died, my dad was going to bring him to me to have some work done. And
Aw.
I was like, okay, because we are all linked together in this conglomeration of mess that I'm currently working through because I'm down here. Right.
Right.
And so I was in the middle of a Reiki session and he came in, and I was like, I stopped for a second and I go, nope, not right now. And I yelled for my dad in my head. I was like, Dad. So he came over. I was like, you need to explain to him what's going on, minimum 10 days. He's got to go.
Yeah.
And so my dad just took him by the arm. I mean, I see this in my mind's eye. I just see my dad take him by the arm and
Yeah.
walk him off. And I go,
Yeah.
and I go back to what I'm doing. Right. But when I do something like that to a living person in front of me, it would be much more difficult for me because you have all these emotions in play. But what I find is I am learning that setting boundaries and speaking my highest truth is becoming easier as I work through the spirit world with spirits, which
Isn't
sounds
that interesting?
crazy, but it works.
Me too. I feel you absolutely 1,000%, and that is exactly how I have operated too. I learned boundaries with people out here, and I also had to learn boundaries with the spirit world, because we're really here to learn to live a human life, right? Like
Yes.
we're also here to do that, and I think that's
Yes,
really important.
it is. Absolutely. So I've got a question. So
Okay.
at your book opening, I met Mark, who
Yes.
is
Yeah.
part of your. So I want you to talk a minute about the about the organization that you formed with Mark.
Okay, I will. Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So, I was really, really lucky back in 2013. I volunteered on a missing persons case in New York, and that came through a friend of mine. And I had just kind of come out to say, "Hey, I have this weird piece of me. I'm a medium too." And so she reached out and said, "My best friend's husband is missing. Can you help on this?" And I said, "Sure." She also said, "There's a retired NYPD detective who's also volunteering his time, and he does believe in intuitive information. Would you want to talk to him?" So naturally, I was freaking out, right? Now, I had already worked with a couple cops in Chicago and in San Francisco, but I don't know. It was very personal. And we hit it off, absolutely hit it off from day one. Through that investigation, there was a moment where I had to pass information to him, and that information helped save his life that day. And unbeknownst to him, he was basically being targeted, and this was an organized crime, unfortunately, an organized crime.
Okay.
So he and I, that further solidified our friendship and our partnership. So, we worked together over the years throughout. And then in 2021, he called me up and he said, "It's time, isn't it?" And I had told him years prior, I said, "I see us we're working together under a larger umbrella. It's not my nonprofit, but I don't know. It's something different. I don't know." And then he was the one who actually did all the boots on the ground initially to help get the nonprofit off the ground, and we co-founded it together. So we help families whose loved ones are missing or have been murdered. We look, if there's answers in cases, we help them. What we found is that many people whose loved ones go missing, or there's questions in homicide cases, in order to, like, if the case goes cold, in order to actually get help, you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. The average is 30 grand. So we thought, why don't we do this? Let's start a nonprofit. We'll help raise funds. We volunteer our time mostly, and we basically just say, "Hey, listen, we can help, put in an application, basically submit your case. And if we think we can help you, we will." And we have detectives all over the nation, and we work together to try and do this on a larger scale than just the two of us.
See, that's so cool. That is so exciting. Yeah. And
Thank
he
you.
was,
I know I love it. It's unexpected, but it's really a pretty amazing thing. And I'm really grateful for him and for the organization.
okay. So we're going to head out for our commercial break. We'll be back in just a couple seconds or minutes. See you in a minute. Bye.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Radiant Spirits Rising. We are here today with Kiersten Hathcock. I'm just so excited. This just warms my heart. So as we close out the podcast, I first of all, I'm going to tell Kiersten again, I'm so excited because I want to have her back. This has been just a blast for me. But I'd like you to give final thoughts from you today to our audience about self-worth and using your abilities.
Absolutely. Thank you first of all, thank you for having me on the show. This has been incredible and I'm excited to come back. I think, as far as self-worth and really starting to trust and own your own intuitive gifts, if you can just hold on, and I know it's hard because I have a hard time with this sometimes too. Like I feel like if I can just push past the fear, like everything that we want truly is on the other side of fear. And if you can just push past that, then you're going to see everything kind of skyrocket for you. Your self-worth, your happiness, all of those things. And I completely, I give credit to intuition and to all of my guides and angels around me for helping me see that. Mm-hmm. I think my life would look very different now had I not embraced it.
I agree. And, I'll be honest, there are times where I'm just like with my business and with my abilities and all of this. And I think, what am I doing? I could just go back to an 8-to-5 job and be guaranteed. But then I think, number one, I don't want to work for people. But number two, I have people that I follow, you being one of them. So when I'm starting to feel like that, I will go in and look at your stuff because look at everything that you've done. And you go out and you're like, yep, I'm a medium and I'm not sad about that. And that really... I'm not sad about that. And it really helps me to be like, no, you're on the right path. You met her 2 years ago for a reason, and you're just following her. We're just walking this path together. Not even following, we're just walking this path together. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I have chills. Like hearing you say that, I have chills from head to toe. I think we help each other because I feel the same way. I look at you and everything you've done. Mm-hmm. And I'm really, really proud of you and very inspired by you too.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and go to our slide deck. And so I'm going to talk first about Kiersten. So I've got Kiersten's website up. So Kiersten, you want to go through your social media and your website really quick?
Oh, sure. Well, it's pretty easy because it's just my name. So it's KirstenHathcock.com. Everything else is pretty much the same. I do have a little middle name in there of Parsons on a couple of these, but you can pretty much find me anywhere. Just search Kiersten Hathcock and I will be there.
And if you go to her website, you can order her book, by the way, which is amazing. I have my own signed copy of it sitting right here. So get that book and read it. If you have questions about your abilities, this is one of the greatest books that I will recommend you read. There's another one I'll throw out at some point. Next slide. So maybe. All right. So my affirmation of the week. So Kiersten, this is, I don't know if you've seen this. This is the second card deck that I put out. It is
I
the
haven't
Today
seen
I
the second one.
Yeah, no,
This is
this
great.
is the Today I Choose deck. And so our affirmation for this week is today I choose to accept I am a beautiful person. And that is when you're looking at yourself and accepting yourself, you just need to view yourself as a beautiful person. That's
I
what you
love
need
this.
to do. Yeah. And if you look at yourself in the mirror and you can't see yourself as a beautiful person, then you need to start working on that. And my recommendation is you look at yourself in the mirror, you blow yourself a kiss and tell yourself that you love you every day and just move on from that. And that will actually help you start feeling more positive in your life. So next slide. So the service I'm actually going to talk about this week that I offer is an intuitive gift healing training. So as Kiersten and I talked about today, both of us found out we had abilities in different ways, and we still have sometimes fear about those. So many times people have these abilities, but they are fearful of them. And what this service does is we go in and we start working through that fear and we start releasing that and we start downloading you with the information that you need to start using and being comfortable with your abilities. So I recommend this service to anybody who's empathic or believes that they have mediums or they have thoughts that aren't their own. You know what? Come see me. 1 hour session is $125 an hour. But next slide, if you book this week, I have a coupon to take 10% off of the soul integration healing sessions. So if you type in soul 10 at checkout, you will receive 10% off of that session for 1 hour. So you know what? Don't hesitate. Book your session today. Come see me. Let's start working on a better you. Next slide. Let's talk about my transformational community. This is an elite group that you can join for $30 a month. I'm only allowing 100 members in the group. So you get one-on-one time with me in personal card messages, one-on-one time with me with pendulum pulls. You get exclusive discounts, priority booking, and access to me. And I have some really great people in that community currently who are working through their transformational journey. So don't wait. You know what? Go to patreon.com, see Healing with Heather Lena, and get into that community today. I'll be doing the first card pull for the month tomorrow. So if you sign up today, you'll get your first card pull tomorrow. Next slide. If you need to get a hold of me, I would love to talk to you. So if you have a question or comment about the podcast, send it to healingwithheatherlena@gmail.com. You can also get a hold of me at my website, which is heatherlena.com, or contact@heatherlena.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Healing with Heather. That should say Heather Lena, so I'm going to fix that. It should say at Healing with Heather Lena. Next slide. And then YouTube. So now you can actually watch my live stream of my podcast on my YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/at Healing with Heather Lena /streams, my live will be on there. You can just go in and watch it immediately. Next slide. So our final thought of the day, and then we'll go back to Kiersten to say goodbye, is embrace who you truly are, honor your intuitive gifts, and watch your spirit rise. So work this week really hard on that. So
I love that.
Kiersten, thank you so much. It's been a joy to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much. I can't wait to come back.
I know. It'll be exciting. So join me next week, Tuesday at 1 p.m. Arizona time, 3 p.m. New York time. See you next week. Bye.
This has been Radiant Spirits Rising with your host, Heather Lena. Tune in each week as we step into the world of natural healing and discover the radiant spirit within you. Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios. Start your journey toward balance and renewal.